Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Crystal Henry TV show. I am so excited that you have joined us this evening. We are entering session 5. This is Professor Gaynell Gaynor of San Antonio, Texas. She is amazing. We have had to just get her Blacknificent history out. We started in Black History Month, and we're going to finish it in the month of for historical women. And so I'm excited to say that she is truly a phenomenal historic woman. Radiology, radiography, technology is her expertise. And we are going to learn about her 40 years of teaching. So without further ado, welcome, Professor Gaynell Gaynor. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm very blessed and happy to be here to share my story to the best of my ability as I remember it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we're going to start off with your professional associations and positions. So, will you give us some information about part of the organizations that you have been a part of and how they affected your students?
Yes, I'd like to just clarify that at St. Phillips College proper, I did serve the St. Phillips radiography program for 35.2 years.
Okay.
Of course, we won't speak about after retirement. I would like to say that it was a pleasure for me to work with these students over this period of time. And I want you to know that I was just so happy that we were able to get the students involved in 1973, 74 with their first competition. The students in my second class formally entered the scrapbook competition and a scientific paper competition. And this really gave them the encouragement to go on further and compete and during the following years in scientific exhibits as well as continuation with the scientific papers. They of course had to join the society, and we're speaking of the Texas Society of Radiologic Technologists.
Excellent, excellent. That is amazing that the students were able to join that professional organization and participate, to not just participate, but to win some challenging um, events. And that is so amazing to be able to teach your students, and then for them to be able to excel is phenomenal. So now, what positions did you hold in any of your professional organizations?
While being a member of the Texas Society of Radiologic Technologists, I served as secretary, also vice president, and then later president-elect, and served as president of the Texas Society of Radiologic Technologists in 1996-97. I was the first African-American president and officer, mainly the president of that organization. And I had the privilege of being a Wade Hoots lecturer in 2003. My association with, as an educator, I was an officer 3 different times for the Texas Community College Teachers Association, of which I was the first African-American officer, serving as treasurer, secretary, and then vice president. When it came time for me to run for president-elect of that organization, I did not win. And however, there was an African-American lady that in a few years later was the first Black president of the Texas Community College of Teachers Association. So we were, if you will, trailblazers.
Yes,
At the
yes,
time.
that is so amazing. Now, when you mentioned the Wade Hoots Awards, can you expound on that a little bit? Because I don't think our audience really knows how phenomenal that was for you to win.
Yes, Wade Hoots was a former president and former organizer of many of the professional um, committees that Texas TSRT was noted for. And when he died, they honored him by putting the lecture series in his name. And so we followed by having a topic, an educational topic, or topic that had something to do with the field in general of imaging.
Okay.
And I chose a topic that include professionalism because I have always been an advocate for us as radiologic technologists to be placed and recognized as professionals, just like the nurses, the RNs, they are recognized as professionals. So I worked very hard, not only with legislation in Texas, but with the Texas Society to make sure that the students would aspire to conduct themselves in a professional way and to participate in all kinds of educational programs to enhance their effectiveness in the area of diagnostic medical imaging.
Excellent. That is so excellent. You know, to come from or to start groundbreaking with radiology technology, that is important because it could have been thought of as a medical assistant or a nurse's aide, but you strived and fought for radiologists to be recognized as professions, as a professional job or career, not just a job, but it was a career.
Yes,
Not
might I
Yes, go
say
ahead. Hmm.
that we were commonly called button pushers,
Mm,
and there are different levels of X-ray techs. They also tried to call those of us who had an associate degree. And this program that I founded is an associate of applied science degree program. So not only are there didactic courses specializing in imaging, but there were academic courses that the students took, just like the RNs had to engage in their specialty or didactic courses as well as, you know, the academic courses, English,
yes.
math, science, etc. So that's what I was aspiring to make sure that our associate degree level would be noted as being professional and that we worked very hard to have mandatory continuing education and licensure in the state of Texas. And we were able to achieve that.
Excellent. So, Professor Gaynor, can you please tell us about any grants that you wrote that expanded the education of your students and your program?
Yes, I did mention in one of the earlier series about having written the grant called the TEA Enrichment Grant, which really um, helped our students in the lab. We had an energized lab, and we still have an energized lab 50 years later. But in 1995, I had an opportunity to write a grant that was passed on to the Alamo College, which is, we are under the Alamo College system. St. Phillips College is under the Alamo College system.
Yes.
And so each campus has its own president, and our president is Dr. Adina Lawston. And so I wanted you to understand that I was given the privilege of writing a grant in 1995
Mm-hmm.
because Georgetown University had an opportunity to get this grant to a school that was in a community that was heavily populated by Hispanics. And there was a lady, our first name is Elizabeth. She was on her way to El Paso. to talk with the people at the community college level to see if they were interested in writing this grant. And she met Dr. Conrado on the plane, and it just so happened they discussed the opportunity, and he talked to her about the population in San Antonio back at that time it was about 45% Hispanics.
Mm.
And he told her about the radiography program. And of course, he emphasized that the program was fully accredited and that he would like for her to really consider um, San Antonio. So she did come to San Antonio. She visited all the campuses, and she found out that radiography would be ideal for the grant, and also the population with Hispanics was the icing on the cake. And so I was getting ready to take a break from, the spring semester, and was
Okay.
getting ready to take a summer break. And it was at that time that I agreed to write the grant. I was also told that as a part of being the grant writer, I was given an opportunity to go to Managua, Nicaragua, and I went there in September, that fall of the same year, 1995. I spent a solid week there visiting hospitals, clinics in that area. And as a result of the descriptions that I brought back, they were able to have the physics instructor teach the pertinent
Courses.
courses that were relevant to radiography technology. The grant was written and the students um, were approved to come, and they started coming in 1996. And that was the the Nicaraguan National Peace Scholarship Grant. And then it was followed by another grant, which was called the a Cooperative Association of States Scholarship Grant. And so
Okay.
we had students from not only Nicaragua, but we had students from Central America, Haiti, Jamaica. And those students spent 2 years, each class spent 2 years with us, and they would send over 15 to 16 students at one time. And
Wow.
we were able to train them, house them. And I wrote the curriculum, and we set it up where the students would spend the majority of their time at St. Phillips, but they were able to go to sister schools like Palo Alto, Northwest Vista, and San Antonio College.
Excellent.
And, yes.
So that is amazing. So you wrote these two grants to bring in basically transfer students that they came in from outside countries into San Antonio, Texas to learn radiology,
Yes.
become radiologists. And so,
Leadership courses, radiography was the main curriculum, and public health was a part of it. And they were successful. They were able to go back to their respective countries and be a part of what we know as the middle class, if you will.
excellent. That is amazing. So you, the grant that you wrote provided excellent jobs and healthcare, because healthcare is always needed in whatever country you're in. So you have provided some jobs and the ability not only to feed themselves, but their family.
Yes.
Um, I remember, since I had firsthand knowledge, I remember you learning to speak Spanish, and you became fluent while you were teaching the students. And I remember even the students from Haiti and Jamaica learned Spanish as well. So
Yes, that's
not
correct.
only did you send them back home, learning English as well as, making every student was bilingual. And so I think
Yeah.
that is so phenomenal. And it has to be mentioned that you became bilingual in order to reach people from other countries.
Yes, when I Thank you. When before going to Managua, Nicaragua, I did study, have a crash course. Naturally, I took a couple of semesters in high school, but when I was preparing for the trip to Managua, Nicaragua, there was an instructor that gave me a wonderful crash course. I even read over the history of the area before I went. And I was speaking about, I would call myself third grade level. But when I came back, my mother, your grandmother,
Okay.
your grandmother was ill and she died in the end of September. And
Mm,
my hope was to continue to study.
mhm.
Otherwise, I would continue to be fluent, but I feel like I've to some degree lost that skill. But I was highly motivated and I was able to give at least a commencement speech to the first class that graduated. And they gave me a standing ovation. So that was very encouraging.
Yes, that was excellent, an excellent experience that I will never forget. And just amazing. I'd also like to maybe push you and prompt you in another couple of areas as far as this as going to Nicaragua. Um, can you give us an experience? Because I know that in 1996 it was a volatile time. So let us know what the experience was when you got off the plane and what happened on your first day.
So when I did arrive in Managua, Nicaragua, there were militia, there were um, people from the military that were standing at attention with their guns drawn. And I just prayed my way through. I did not think about turning around and coming back to the US. I went on, they did examine my bags. I did have to speak with the um, militia,
Counselor? Oh,
yeah, yes, the people who were in charge of the militia and speaking with individuals like myself that were ambassadors coming in. They did talk with me to find out what my purpose was for coming into that country because the revolution was coming to a close, but not yet over. There was still some unrest. So I did have a bodyguard that stayed with me the entire time. And I did, instead of being in a bed and breakfast or motel or hotel setting, they thought it would be safe for me to stay in the home of a
no.
cardiologist family. And they had two daughters. And the parents did not speak any English at all. And this was one reason why I felt like I learned a lot because I was challenged to speak the Spanish that I did learn. And
Excellent.
yes,
That is excellent. What an amazing story. To be a groundbreaker, a barrier breaker that broke barriers in the United States, went to another country, and being African American and learning how to speak their language, being able to navigate in a time of unrest is amazing and phenomenal. Who would think that becoming a radiologist would have such rich fullness and such rich history across crossing continents? That's amazing.
may I make a minor correction? You mentioned radiologist, and that is the title given to the physician or the doctor who's the specialist who reads the
Okay.
radiographs. The radiologist is the doctor. I'm a radiologic technologist with a degree in radiologic technology, a baccalaureate degree.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay. Excellent. Excellent.
thank you.
So that is amazing that you were able to cross continents and make a difference in other countries as well as the United States. Bravo, congratulations. That is amazing and phenomenal history. Is there any other story or history that you would like to speak to regarding your students before we finish this session?
Yes, even as early as the early 70s, I was able to be a, if you will, a charter member of the Diversity Committee with the American Society of Radiologic Technologists. And also at that time, diversity, the word was just thrown around quite a bit. And I was able to have a Hispanic student, Miss Rebecca Carrion. She was able to have a special trip to Washington because they were trying to, Washington, D.C. at that time was trying to bring together students from all over the United States and have a forum where they could, discuss issues relative to diversity to
Right.
try to improve the human condition. And I was glad I was able to send a student.
Excellent. That is amazing. Now, didn't you travel to Chicago? Was that related
Yes,
to?
yes. The American Society of Radiologic Technologists is a national professional organization, and having been serving as president now of the TSRT, they sent me in 1996-97 to be a delegate. And so not only was I a delegate in Louisville, Kentucky, but I became a member of the Educational Alliance, and I was elected as member at large. And that entitled me to travel to Chicago 4 years in a row. I was
Wow.
the board, the Educational Alliance of Radiologic Technologists had their board meetings in Chicago. And the time that they scheduled was the weekend of Thanksgiving. And I must share a funny story. After the third or fourth year, I think it was the fourth year of taking leave from my home, my husband decided he wanted to join me. And when he did get to Chicago to find out how busy I was in meetings, he was quite bored, and he says, perhaps I can do something while you're in meetings. And I made arrangements for him to be on the Oprah show. And that was the year in which Oprah lost like some 65 pounds.
Yes, I remember that.
Priscilla Presley was one of the guests on the show. We have a copy of the tape. But he was very happy when he came back, and he said, I'm glad I had an opportunity to be on the Oprah show. And those were the days when the men were wearing leisure suits. And so
Yes.
he stood out because he had a white leisure suit. I digress, but I wanted to share that funny story that
Well,
he realized how busy I was,
yes.
and he
And that's
was fortunate enough.
amazing.
Mhm.
That is so amazing that he made you allowed him to make his own history by
Yeah,
being on the Oprah Winfrey Show.
something
So
I
that,
dreamed of, but didn't have an opportunity myself to go.
yes, yes, that is excellent. Well, Professor Gaynor, I have enjoyed this amazing interview. You are
Thank
truly a professor from continent to continent. You are a national, international professor. You have just um, done leaps and bounds over obstacle after obstacle after obstacle,
you.
year after year after year. And everything that you have done was done so professionally. So I just say bravo again. Great
Thank you.
job. Again, you have the most amazing Blacknificent history that I know of. And maybe I'm partial, but you just have done so many amazing things, and we just have to get this word out. So, with that being said, this shall end our session 5. And please come back to the Crystal Henry TV, the interview with Professor Gaynell Gaynor, radiology technologist. Just an amazing woman, a woman of God and creative creator. So Professor Gaynor, any last words before we close out?
I just want to say thank you. I feel so appreciative, and I know God has ordered my steps. I've said before, I've prayed my way through these years, trying to be the best that I can be, and I do aspire my students. I try to encourage them, to tell them to be the best you can be at all times. You never know who's watching. And I would tell them today is the first day of the rest of your life, and please try to make the best of it. And thank you so much for this opportunity to share my story.
Thank you. Again, join us, subscribe, like, and share. Crystal Henry TV will be back for session 6. Thank you.
Thank you.